Hi guys, we're gonna be recording some Yu Yu Hakusho decks here. This is Devin with the UA Lab. We are gonna look at the two decks that I'm most interested in from Yu Yu Hakusho, and then we'll look at the other one that I think is really strong, but it doesn't appeal to me in particular, but I think it's still worth going over. So let's start with the Hea Yusuke deck. Now, I think this is the weakest of the three we're going to be looking at here, but I personally really like it, so we're going to talk about it. So, this deck is obviously built around Hea and Yusuke, but in particular, Hea. So, let's just take a look at this. I have it on the right here. So, the Hea raid is very strong. Only a 4-cost 4K, has impact if you've just used an event that turn, which is what this deck's built around. Really easy to do. And even though we're only on 10 events, you'll see why when we're reading this card, why that's easier to turn on than you think. So on play, you can use the Dragon of Darkness Flame, which is the special for the deck, just by paying the AP. And you notice you ignore the required energy. You can do it from the grave in particular. So the sideline to the removal area. So that means you can reuse specials you've already used. So that's what makes this first effect really effective, is it just, you on play, you reuse a special from grave, and then you have impact that turn, right? Really easy to do. Now, along with that, there's some few cards that enable it, like for instance, you can also do this. This event is really easy to use because it's only 2 cost. Pump something, you restand your AP, so it's not even like a cost to use it. Just really nice. That means you can get to 5k impact off this Hea, right, and get past a Lancelot or any other 5k deck. This Hea, you don't go high on it, so we're going to kind of work backwards because the last few aren't that important. This Hea is, when attacking, draw 1 and discard 1. And if you've used 2 events this turn, you just straight up get to draw. That's really nice. But it also means you can draw 1 and pitch the special and then use the special and not even have to worry about keeping the specials in hand, which is really nice. And this is only at 2 just for slot reasons. Your 4Ks are mostly focused on the 2 raids, and so you don't want too many of this, but this is still a very nice utility card, just a big body that filters through cards. I personally prefer the Yusuke package over the Kurama package. I've seen Hea Kurama lists going around. Kurama is a very powerful effect. It just doesn't appeal to me for the Hea focus deck. I think there's a Kurama Yusuke deck that's very strong, but I'm not going to go over it today because it's not personally the one I'm interested in. But what this Yusuke deck card does is it has impact and negate, so that's already great. But then on play, you just draw a card, right? So you're just getting more resources, trying to find these events, find your pieces. I think this deck is very consistent and powerful because of it. And then also, if you've used 2 events this turn, which is very possible because of the Hea raid and things like that, makes it very doable. It's just draw 2 instead. So just very consistent, effective card. This Yukina just searches for events, so also can find it. You only run 2 because you don't really need the double energy that bad in this deck, and you're not going that heavy on events, right, because you can reuse and things like that. This Yukina is actually absurd. Notice it says, on play, you can reduce the next event used from your hand or your outside area. So that means if you played this the same turn you raid with the Hea, you can just use the special for free from the outside area. Which, remember, the outside is the way that Xburst translates sideline. Okay. And then also, On a future turn, since you can't really restand this, you can rest this card if you've used an event and look at the top card and place it on top or bottom. So you get some filter, which is nice. You obviously play this Yusuke just for raid targets because there's actually only the 2 Yusuke cards to raid on top of, and it's just a 4K attacker if you've used an event, so just another beater, another reason you don't really need to go up on this Hea. Now, these Heas are for curve reasons and for targets, and it's really unfortunate because neither of them are triggers, but you just kind of have to run them. But they are pretty good. Like this 2 cost draws a card if you played an event. The 1 cost gets 1k for each event you've used this turn, which this deck often does use events twice, and so you could be swinging as a 4k. The 0 cost, I mean, this is the standard. You always run 4 of this in most decks, right? Hea is a get. The Yusuke isn't active, which means sometimes you'll be kind of lacking in Yusuke names, which can be awkward, but still very powerful. Okay, and that's most. And then there's the events. I talked about this one already, and then your standard, final, and special. Special is the normal special, right? 3k if you control Hea, 5k. Kill. And that's the deck. So this is just a very low to the ground, smash the face in, use events. You can double special off of 1 special in hand. Just a very efficient aggro deck. And then let's go ahead and talk about the next deck. Now this deck is built around the 7 cost Yusuke. Now a lot of people compare this to Kurapika or Lancelot. The one we're actually going to talk about next is more comparable to Lancelot in my opinion, but this one feels more like a different Kurapika deck. Okay? So on play gets Sniper, so that's already very similar, right? Now it has this when attacking effect. It has 2 parts, or 2 choices, right? This character gains when attacking and is not blocked, you can rest something, right? And then the second one is, or you can, when attacking, get impact. Now, what's interesting about this deck is a lot of the cards in the deck have these 2 choice options, and then there's specifically the Coenma, the other key to this deck. So let's read through this card. It has a lot of effects. When a character on your area activates, choose one of the following effect. You may rest this active character and choose a face down card under this character to the outside area. If you did, that effect becomes choose 2 of the following instead. And then on play in the energy line, it becomes active and you can rest and tuck a card underneath it. So basically, you can tuck one right away the turn it comes out, and then on a later turn, use that to, for instance, like this Yusuke. This is one of the most powerful plays you can do, right? You can Sniper, impact over something, and because you can't block a snipe effect, you rest something of theirs as well. So you can just get so much damage in 1 turn off of this combo right here. And then some other cards in the deck. So obviously there's the 4 cost raid, which this just is great because it's a cheaper raid that filters through your deck. Draw 2, trash 1 on play, right? That is so nice for finding the pieces because this is a ramp deck. You need to find the energy you need to find the Yusuke. And then this is a combo deck on top of being a ramp deck, so you also need to find the Coenma. Then, Kurama. Another face down card. So this deck, you might notice, has some face down card synergy, and that's really nice with the new rule change. You can now look at your face down, so you can actually choose which one you're grabbing off the Coenma and putting into your sideline, which is really powerful. Okay. Now this one also, main once per turn, you can get rid of one of your face down cards under this character, and if you did, choose one character on your area and give it, it cannot be blocked by characters with 4k or more. So that means even if you don't have, like on a later turn, you can use this, make it so it can't be blocked on the 7 cost Yusuke, and then that will get its other effect active, right? So really powerful. This Yusuke is a little less good. It chooses one or the other of You can make it a double energy or make it so it generates energy on the front line, which that actually is really relevant with this Coenma, right? You can make it so it generates 2 on the front line, which can really be effective for getting your Yusuke live, right? The amount of energy. So it's good, but it's not a trigger, so I kind of cut down on this. Okay. The Botan is actually very strong in my opinion. Double energy. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, place any number of them on top of your deck in any order, so you can find the pieces you need. And then the other one is reveal, and then if the card is not Yusuke, you have to discard a card. But either way, you draw a card, which is really powerful. So at worst, it's a draw 1, trash 1, and at best, if you're drawing a Yusuke, it's just a draw. And then that means with the Coenma, you can make it so she just stacks the top 2 cards, and then you're going to more likely have a Yusuke that you can draw and get the effect of it. Okay. And then this is a boring active trigger double energy Yusuke, but I think it's more useful to have that at 4 than this, because notice when this is only at 2, we're a 48 trigger deck, right? That is really nice. Your life is going to save you a lot in this deck, which is really powerful in a ramp deck. You really want to have the defensive active triggers and things like that. We already talked about the Coenma. We have this 2-cost Yusuke. It's also an active trigger. On play, you can choose any character and place a card face down under it. So that's really nice. You can give this Coenma another card if you need it. So that means if you play these in the same turn, you can get his effect live right away. So just a very nice card. And another active trigger, 3k body. Just like, this card's just like a good like glue card, you know, kind of sticks the deck together. The Pooh is a searcher. Really nice. It's a searcher that digs 4. Not every searcher does that for Yusuke or Coenma. Standard, if you add a card, you have to then discard 1 to your sideline. And it has a trigger. Not every searcher has a trigger, so that's nice. And then your standard, draw 1, pitch 1. I chose the Yukina for the 3rd 0, just because it's a draw trigger and it can pump something, which maybe you could argue there's some other 0 costs you could put in here, but I like this one. And then finally you have your get Yusuke. So this deck, I think, is a very, very powerful combo deck. Oh, and this is just standard, final, and special. If you get this combo off, it's just so absurd, because you're sniping impact. If you have the Coenma combo, then you're also resting another of their guys. And so then if you have like this guy up at the front, he's also impact. They're just like you're getting like 3 or 4 damage in. It is so powerful. This deck is really explosive when it gets its combo pieces off. So yeah, so I think this deck has a lot of potential. To me, it just feels like it actually has some edges over the other big green ramp decks, which is really nice. Now let's talk about the last deck. So this one, like I said, this one doesn't interest me as much, but it is very powerful. So it's built around the younger Toguro raid. So 8-cost raid, cannot be played unless by raid, so you can't just hard play this as a 5k blocker if you need to, which is unfortunate. But it also has a few interesting things. Impact 1, damage 3. This is one of the few cards we've seen that just straight up has damage 3, which is so very powerful. On play, gives your entire opponent's front line minus 1k, and then you can kill a 4k or less, which is very comparable to Lancelot. So I've seen a lot of people compare this to Lancelot. It feels very similar, right? Big impact, damage, kills something on play. That is very similar. Now, the one thing that's, and like you might think, oh wow, it even has damage 3, maybe it's better than Lancelot. Now, I will say the rest of the deck around this is a lot worse than Lancelot's remaining pieces. This has some good cards still, to be clear, but some of the downside is our double energy options are pretty mediocre. So you have the Karasu and the Sakyo that we'll talk about in a second here. You max on those for sure, but just to get to 8, you kind of need to be running the generic when it's active, get his double energy. This is a standard build I found on online on Torii cards. They're running 3 of the bounce and 3 of the tap, gets double energy and dies at end of turn, just because there's really not very many good 0 and 1 cost options. You could choose to like go up on this active, get double energy, and replace this 1-drop with there's some 1-drops from the what's it called, the Shishiwa Kamaru deck, but you just really don't have good fill-in curves on this deck, so that's where I think this deck is just probably worse Lancelot in retrospect. But this card is very powerful, to be clear. If you're getting to this card, you are really going off. Like, it's damage 3 is so scary. They're going to block this almost every time, and you can clear their impact blocker, etc. Now let's kind of go card by card. Specials, again, like all the specials are like standard specials in this deck set. There's nothing really interesting about them. Just 3k, 5k. This is the other interesting one. This 5 cost is pretty strong as a raid. Opponent's turn cannot be chosen by effects that are not in raid state. So only other raids can kill this. So, like, kind of nice, but that's kind of very niche. It's only characters that it stops, and only non-rated characters, so it's like very narrow in my opinion. And then on play, draw 2, trash 1. Again, that's very nice. If there's a 3k or less on the opponent's front line, it just becomes draw 2. So this just finds the pieces you need, which again, this is a big ramp deck. You really want to see that. Like, card filter's nice in these to find what you need. Plus, you can discard, once you already have your double energy, you can discard these kind of mediocre cards you're forced to run. So, 5-cost Toguro, very powerful. It can, you can get rid of your own guy to minus 2k one of your opponent's frontline things, and you get impact on this character, which is really nice. You'll see this actually combos with the 0-cost Toguro older brother. Now let's talk about this, because I think this is where it comes up, is with this 5-cost here. Has impact negate, so that's already nice. And then your turn, if this is retired or returns to the hand, then your younger brother Toguros get cost reduced by 2 until the next one you play. So basically, the next one you play of the younger brother costs 2 less. Well, that's really nice, because that means this one only becomes a 6-cost raid. So you can use this 5-cost, kill your own 0-cost, reduce the 2, then you can raid into this for just 6 energy. So very nice combo. And then when it dies, also you can just discard a different card and add it back to your hand. So that's really nice, because that means you can combo, like, you can repeatably get impact negate. You can set it up so you have this again, so you can get to 6 energy only for a second Toguro raid. It's very nice combo piece for this deck. The 4-cost also can kill your 0-cost and then draw 2, and that's really nice, because that means you can then use this effect, discard another card while you're drawing 2 to then get this back. Like, just very nice gameplay loop for this deck. This 3-cost, since a lot of the stuff minus is the opponent's cards, this is really nice. And then draw 1, discard 1. Notice it rests itself, but this is double energy, so you're going to leave it back in the energy line unless you're going to raid on top of it anyway, so that's not bad. This one, a very long card. On play, choose one of the following effects. If a character was killed, you can play 1 from your hand rested, so that means you can then, after you kill this with an effect, then replay it back out off of this. Or you can choose to bounce this card back to the hand. And notice this card also triggers off bouncing back to the hand, so that also combos with cost reducing the younger brother. And then the rest is mostly what I already talked about, but you do have this 2-cost Toguro, which can also kill the younger brother and give the self 1k, so you have a 4k attacker. Okay. So basically, this deck's kind of built around killing this or bouncing this to then make this only a 6-cost, which is really nice, because then this is a lot more effective to play. So maybe there's an argument you just cut down on this these two kind of mediocre double energy cards just so you can you rely on this, I guess, to make it cheaper. But again, this isn't the deck I was as interested in, but I want to bring it up because I do think it is arguably the best deck from this set, and it is very powerful. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. And this has been the UA Lab.